over there, they're all creating. Then we have all kinds of creations. And sometimes they overlap or mesh together really well. And sometimes they're completely independent and stand alone. But over time, lots of different things exist. And one area where this has happened is thinking about where the world and everything in it, including us, comes from. People all over the world have had to explain the sky and the sun or how people came to be for pretty much as long as people have been. Yeah? You with me? Okay, we're awake. Okay. So I'm going to share one of those takes for you. And this is a creation story from the Polynesian legend that was transmitted by Peori in 1822. So that's when it was written down, but it's been around for a long, long time. And it says that in the beginning, there was Ta'aroa, the one, big O. And he was the creator and remained lonely in his shell, which was called Rumia. And this shell was like an egg spinning in infinite space without sky, without earth, without moon, without sun, without stars. And Ta'aroa was bored in his shell. Have you ever been just sitting completely alone without anything? You get bored. Yeah. So he jerked it open and slipped out, but everything was dark and silent, and he was alone. So he broke his old shell to make rock and sand, and with shell he established the great foundation of the world. With his spinal column he created mountain ranges, and with his tears he made oceans and lakes and rivers. With the nails of his hands and his feet he covered fish and turtles with scales. And with feathers he made trees and bushes, doesn't say it, but probably birds, right? There's feathers. And with his blood he colored the rainbow and set it all. And then Ta'aroa brought his craftsmen with baskets filled with tuai to sculpt, to create. And they made Tani the first god. And then were born demigods like Ru and Hina and Maui and hundreds more. And yes, it's that Maui. Moana, anybody? Okay. I told you some of the creations meshed together. So Tani decorated the sky with stars and placed the sun there to shine on the earth and the moon to light up the nights. And Ta'aroa decided to finish his work by creating people. And he divided the world into 7 platforms, and people were to remain on the lower platform. But the humans multiplied rapidly, and Ta'aroa, seeing this, applauded. Yay! Yay! There you go. And then when the first platform was crowded with creatures and plants of all kinds, the inhabitants decided to expand their domain. So they made a hole in the upper platform, and climbing on top of each other, they occupied all of the other platforms. And it all belonged to Ta'aroa, the master of everything, and that's the end of that version of that story. So, I know you're on the edge of your seat now wondering, but Miss Adina, how can I apply this story of creation of the world to my life? Well, let me tell you. When Ta'aroa looked out of his shell and didn't see the world he wanted, he created it. And I think that can be the same for us. I know that over the course of my life, and especially lately, there have been times where I look out over the world and realize that this is not the world that I want. For me, for my kids, for my friends and beloveds, for you. Think of someone when you say for you, yeah? For anyone. We may not, and for a lot of us, we do not have the world that we want. But my faith as a Unitarian Universalist calls me, and hopefully calls all of us, to make it ourselves with the tools that we have. And the first step, like Ta'aroa, is just coming out of our shell. So now I invite the children and youth to come create a new world with me as we head downstairs to our classes. And guess what, grown-ups? You don't have to be a kid to do that, shameless plug. You too can be a part of our RE because all you have to do is come out of your shell and sign up to hang out with us. Thank you.
Please join me in our offering and acknowledging all the ways we give to this church and this world. We give because this is our church, and we value what it does for us, to us, and through us to the community and our world. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this church inside and outside our walls. May we give in love and in hope. Thank you for your offering and all the ways you give to our life and ministry with your time, talent, treasure, and trust. Together, our gifts allow us to expand and strengthen the tapestry of love, wonder, and connection that blesses this church and transforms our world. Our reading this morning is Arise by Norma Kawaloku Wong. In it, there are two items she uses as shorthand. One is who, H-U, which she uses to mean the human quotient. And the other is G, which means in this context, a critical juncture when and where change begins. Arise. We, the keeper of all hopes, suspicious though we may be, fear lurking in all the corners, doubting our own readiness, caught in the innumerable webs of delusion marking this time, place, and space-time, spinning with seeming chaos, and yet, so cunningly so by the human ambition, not the who's call, in our stead the sneering white-knuckled amygdala of our own making. May we forgive ourselves and move on to that place of maximum possibility. G, asserting and arising as yeast that cannot be denied, its potential deliciousness applied to the stuckness of all things fought to a draw. Without satisfaction, we cannot linger to watch, entertaining though it may sometimes be, instead the urgent yearning for a time-place not yet built. Here, not out there. Here, not in the stars, for the stars have already done their best to birth who it is we are, this one earth. Not yet one peoples, divided in all the ways imagined and unimaginably. Some took a breath and discovered it is possible to breathe, necessarily so. If one is to gird courage, climb into the foothills at the time of the red dawn to perceive the horizon. But a blue from sea level, even as it continues to rise, it cannot buoy us into the foothills. We must climb that we may feel, hear, and see the story of our own telling. So vivid now that we are beyond the pull of fractionness, and pulled instead into the slipstream of our collective spirit, waging peace as our ancestors hoped we would, and our descendants counted on. We arise.
The first thing I'm going to do is not talk. I have this basket. It has tiny little pieces of paper in it, and I'm gonna pass this around. You can take as many as you want. You can look at them now or later. I'll talk about them later, but I'm going to go ahead and start this moving around first. So this is called small moves. That's what we're talking about today, small moves. A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with Michelle Matthews, who did these beautiful turtle wall hangings, and the wall hangings in the back as well, the tie-dye wall hangings. They are for sale just a quick point about that, and I believe some of the money comes back to the church in a donation, so just keep that in mind if you got a special someone you need to give a gift to. But I asked her a question about her process that I love to ask people. How much of it is planned, and how much of it is experimentation? And she said, not in these exact words, but she said, it's about 50-50, because even if I have something in mind, I don't know how it's going to turn out. She said, I think of it like Christmas morning. I know there's going to be a gift, but I don't know what it will be until I unwrap it. Opening up her artwork for her is like Christmas morning. There will be a gift, but the gift is a surprise. Today I'm going to offer up some reflections from my time in the studio when I used to have a consistent artist studio practice that can be applied in a playful and also serious way to life on a larger scale. This month's theme for services is creativity, and I wanted to open us up to what that means with some specificity. I also want to offer up some ways to connect it to the largest of scales. That to meet the unknown with creativity is to participate in a core quality of what it is to be human, and even what is divine. We people always want to know how something came to be, how creation occurred. Why are we here? Why do we have narwhals? Or that mountain range? How did the universe start? In many traditional creation stories, like the one we heard today, and even in our scientific explanations, the beginning is often in darkness, chaos, formlessness. Sometimes one great being says, "May it be so." Or sometimes there's an epic battle, and the outcome is the great creation of everything except for the stuff that was there before. Often there's an inexplicable transformation, a revelation, an explosion, or a birth. Out of these starts, time itself forms. The basic structures like sky, light, fundamental building blocks, and all that comes after. But the question still is, how does everything come from nothing? It will always be a mystery. A great mystery is another kind of presence dancing around our most human lives, our religions and traditions, dancing around our explanations. As theologian Gordon Kaufman said, we may be playing around with ideas, but we really don't know which ideas count. That's where the mystery begins. Where we feel we're at a place that we'll never know, but still it is very important. The author of the universe is the mystery of creativity. I don't like the word author, he says, because it's a personification. The creativity in the universe, he says, is not personified or anthropomorphic. It's just happening all over. The creativity we know of in the universe isn't purposeful, he says. Purpose is something that comes about when you have living beings that need to make choices between alternative kinds of values that they have. So we need the word mystery because there's a lot of stuff we just don't know, and we don't know that we'll ever know. The creativity in the universe is not personified for him. It's just happening. It's just happening all over. It isn't purposeful, he says. And as many people believe that it isn't purposeful. In this room, I'm going to guess there's some people who have a different thought about that and would like to get into a long discussion about it. We all hold different ideas on it as Unitarian Universalists. But back to this mystery piece, the edge of not knowing but knowing that it matters. It reminds me of the space of improvisation. So not comedy or theater improv so much. I know there's a lot of theater people here, so I'm not speaking of that. We could do that as another sermon. But I'm thinking more about the idea of the improvisational mindset in something like jazz or in art making. Thelonious Monk once said, "I don't know where jazz is going. Maybe it's going to hell. You can't make anything go anywhere. It just happens." Or Miles Davis once said, "I'll play it first and tell you what it's called later." This feeling of tuning in and not knowing but making it anyway is uncomfortable without a lot of practice. And that's the feeling of being in the studio. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn over and over again is that as an artist, when I make something, it's not going to look like something I've seen before. Even if I achieve exactly what I want, which never happens, it may have familiarity to it because it's situated in other work that I've made or my own thinking. But if it's really, truly my own, it's going to look familiar, but will not necessarily look like something I've ever seen before. It's a hard thing to trust in the studio, and a hard thing to trust in the larger world. On a bigger scale, how do we live our lives in a way that is truly ours? It's never going to look like somebody else's. So here are a few lessons, not rules, not even guidelines, but some things I've gleaned from my studio practice. And when I say them, I don't expect you to hold on to them. I want you to try and think of these in the broadest way possible. Whatever place you go with them is great. So not just in terms of typical creative outlets, but in terms of your life and your life in this place, at this time, in the world, July 6th, 2025, that's where we are, right? Glen, Virginia, or maybe on Zoom, you're somewhere else. So tune in to now. Set a schedule and show up. If you're working on something, just keep turning up when you can, for what time you have. It won't always result in something, but it is the only way. When it is hard, show up anyway. Flip things on their head. Break the rules. Do it your way, literally. Every way you do anything could be done a different way, an infinite number of ways. From using a brush on a painting, to getting in and out of your bed in the morning, to healing, to deciding big things. The artist Laurie Anderson likes to say about studio work, be loose. Everything can't come from pushing, squeezing, and forcing. Sometimes you have to get up, walk away, close the door, and come back tomorrow. The best work can be quick. The best work can be slow. Things will take the time they take. This is my favorite one. You don't have to know. Sometimes sitting still is the thing to do. Observing and not doing is as important as doing. And the last one that I'm going to list is, you will find your material down rabbit holes. They are fertile ground. Only you will create the particular warren of information and interests that are yours. Only you will have intersections and overlaps in those particular places. That is where your magic is. Let's say you're interested in opera and car engines. This is the place of possibility. I mean, think about it. What could we do with opera and car engines? So much. And when you get stuck, not if, when you get stuck, use some oblique strategies. So the little pieces of paper that you all took, Brian Eno, the musician and producer, he created a deck of cards in the 70s called Oblique Strategies to get out of stuckness in the music studio. In the end, a lot of them come back to rule number 2, break the rules, or rule number 1, tune in. But they're all pretty uniquely his. How do you break the rules the right way at the right time? How can you create some chaos and darkness where there's too much order so that something can emerge? How can you open up your thinking brain? A few examples of them of his cards are don't be frightened by cliches or consult other sources. Those are pretty straightforward. And then you get some more esoteric ones like accretion or it is quite possible after all. I've printed them out, you have them, so do with them what you will. And online you can actually find the PDF. If you're on Zoom, you can just look it up and get your own deck made. So find strategies that have worked for other people and try them. It's all an experiment, really. This studio thinking, this way of approaching things, what if we think about the substance of your life as the material in the studio? How can you learn to find what calls you and lean into it, claim it, at any age and stage? Let it create time and structures and grow the surprises. You are the artist or the author of your life. I want to add some nuance to that, though. I don't mean the pat, do what you love and the rest will come. First of all, that advice ignores all the ways that people may have significant barriers to doing what they love. There are many real-life circumstances and locations from which that kind of advice just doesn't work, and in fact overlooks a great number of challenges. All forms of oppression, class, intergenerational trauma, systemic forms of entrapment, physical ability and capacity, all of these things can be extremely limiting, which means 2 things in this context. If these things are not in your way, take the space and go, do, build. If they are, the world has a need for the special magic that is you to be heard. Building the capacity to just have a moment of breathing and feeling into your own space of possibility, the edge of mystery, is a place. Those small moves count. How does everything come from nothing? Keeping that question close, you can have a tiny kernel to help yourself out of the chaos, known as the site of all possibility. When you feel defeated by grief, confusion, rage, loss, this is not nothing. It can feel like a void, like impossibility, like being stuck. Take it to the studio. I'm talking about having a studio mindset when you're thinking about the current world and the future we want for the children of our collective children. Every moment has an opportunity to be a creation story. So begin with what Buddhists called mudita, being open to what is arising. Turn up. Then break the rules. Do it your way. Be loose. Things will take the time they take. You don't have to know. Observe. Use the materials that feel exciting to you, and when you get stuck, turn to the people doing work for some strategies. This is how we make everything out of nothing. And somehow, I have lost the second half of my sermon in the printing. So, this is how we improvise. Now I'm really sorry I insulted all the theater people earlier. There's an elephant in this room. A special Unitarian Universalist species of pachyderm, Because really, some of you are theists and some of you are not. So for some of you, there is something larger, and maybe something larger from which all things flow. Maybe you call it God or the universe or something more abstract that is just the beyond, we can't imagine beyond. For some of you, there's nothing larger at work, but there's something unifying, underlying, threading through all of existence. Some of you may already delight in the mystery, and it's possible that you inhabit all of these ideas at different times. When we ask the question, how did we get here, there's still no definitive answer. There is, however, this edge of not knowing, but also knowing that it matters. The kind of mystery that Kaufman was speaking of. There is in this universe at large scale and small scale, both direction and non-direction, structure and improvisation. Even with a plan, when we unfold something, as it unfolds, it will be a surprise. If we remember this, and remember this as the way it is, we can choose how we receive that gift. We can choose to see it as a complete failure, a wildly beautiful success, or with equanimity, that it is not one thing but contains all possibilities, something that has helped to shape us and our next steps in the studio or in the world uniquely. The unwrapping of a piece of cloth, the job we land, the government we inherit, retirement, the child who comes into our lives. These are all part of the larger action of creativity with a capital C happening all over. These are participating in the dance with God or the universe or the great mystery or the thing that threads through us at our most infinitesimal. How does everything come from nothing? Small moves. Small moves. Amen. All right, please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn. One more step, number 188 in our gray hardcover hymnal. In preparation for our closing, let us reach out to each other in whatever way you feel comfortable. When you go, take with you all the sights of possibility that are already in you, around you, moving through you. When you go, go in peace.
Salam and shalom. Leave this place knowing that you are good and knowing that you are loved.
Take your dark and your light and your love from this place. Share them with the world and stay safe until we meet again. Amen. And enjoy coffee out in the lobby.
And folks, there is a meet and greet downstairs after you have a cup of coffee maybe. But make your way downstairs and meet some new folks, okay? Thanks.